everybody, to the Preacher and the Prodigy podcast. I'm the Prodigy, is the Preacher, and we pick football games. It is week 9 of the college football season. It's already been a very exciting season so far. A lot of things have changed. A lot of surprising teams have sort of emerged, and a lot of disappointing teams have fallen below the depths.
Yeah. What's your most disappointing team right now?
Probably Oklahoma. I mean, you don't really expect them to go from the top of the league to the bottom of the league and just barely building back up, trying to gain some momentum and into the back end of the season. Especially after that disappointing 49-point loss in the Red River Showdown against Texas.
I think Oklahoma's up there. I think also in the mix got to be Notre Dame. I think the number one for me is Texas A&M. Texas A&M was in a lot of top 10 lists at the beginning of the year, as was Oklahoma, as was Notre Dame. But Texas A&M is a more mature program. They don't have a first-year coach like those other two schools do, and they have really struggled. But Jimbo Fisher's going to get paid no matter what happens.
Yeah. Well,
how about a team that surprised you, that has come up that you didn't see really pushing to the top 10, but has shown you something?
Well, I mean, the obvious answer is going to be Tennessee, right? And for good reason, with Hendon Hooker, a Heisman favorite, and their offense just firing on all cylinders. But I really look at TCU, and I think that they've been
undefeated TCU.
Yeah, 7-0.
Who saw that coming?
They've managed to win games when they had to. Max Duggan has been pulling them from behind in back-to-back games.
I got to go Syracuse as well. I mean, we were watching that Syracuse-Clemson game, and there were a couple very iffy calls, all of which went in the way of the Tigers, that if officiated properly, Syracuse might win that game. And who saw that coming? So they had a big showdown with Notre Dame this week at home.
Yeah.
I think Illinois has been a very pleasant surprise as well. In the mosh pit that is the Big Ten West, they right now look like the team to beat.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Chase Brown is one of the best running backs in the nation, and their defense is really stepping up. And, they stopped Minnesota, only allowed 14 points.
But the way things go in the Big Ten West, it's going to be 23-13 Nebraska this weekend. So
yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's crazy, and that's what we love about football. So this week we have 5 games to pick.
Let's do it. Bring it on.
Quickly before we pick our games, I am 21-21. I gained a game on you last week. You are 24-18, so I still got some ground to cover.
I was doing so well until halftimes of these games.
Yeah.
I mean, I had Texas over Okie State or covering. And they were doing great till the very end. I had the Cats over TCU to cover, and that was great till the very end. I did manage to hang on to cover with Syracuse, but man, things went south for me in the fourth quarter of games, especially Big 12 games.
All right, we are going to start down in Florida, where the Florida Gators, it's not a home game, it is in Jacksonville for the world's largest cocktail party, as they call it, against the number 1 team in the land, the Georgia Bulldogs. This game is annual. It's always fun. Georgia's
kind of like the Red River rivalry. They always played at a neutral site.
Yeah,
split the stadium.
Yeah. I'll get it favored by 22.5 in this showdown. You gotta go first.
Chomp, chomp, chomp. That's too rich for me. Give me Florida. I think Florida is, little by little, got to be getting better under a first-year head coach. I think that the Gators keep it closer than 22.5. I don't have any sort of thought that they're going to win this game, but I'm taking the Florida Gators to cover in the neutral site game against the Dogs.
I'm going to take Georgia in this one. I know when you think 22.5, 23 points is a lot of points, but when you're in the game, Georgia just somehow manages to end up winning by 25 points or 26 points, and the game just never really feels like it, but in the end, the Bulldogs end up covering, and I think that's what could happen. I greatly see a 38-13 kind of a game by the end, where it could be, 28-13 heading into the fourth, or 24-13 heading into the fourth, and Georgia just plays bully ball and finds out a way to cover this game. So I'm going to take Georgia.
Georgia 41, Florida 20.
I don't think Florida's
Give me
going to
the
score.
Gators and the points.
I don't think Florida's going to score that many points. Head out west to Kansas, where Oklahoma State and Kansas State will meet. These two teams both lost to TCU barely after having big leads on them at TCU. So these teams know how it feels to get sort of have the table turned on them on the road. Kansas State, the AP ranking underdog, is favored in this game by 1.5.
It's the Big 12, so who could possibly ever know? It's just going to be flip a coin.
I mean, with the way home teams have been playing, give me Kansas State. I think that there's enough talent to pull this game out. Even though Oklahoma State's offense is averaging over 40 points a game, and Spencer Sanders has been dealing out there, I think that Max Duggan is still a great quarterback, and he'll just find a way to, play, take time off the clock and just play tempo ball and find Quentin Johnson and those great receivers out on the edges and in between the hashes. I just think this is a coin flip, and I just think Kansas State is going to be the more reliable pick in this kind of a game. So give me the Cats.
I'm taking the Cats as well. I think going into Little Apple, I think, is a challenging place to play. Who really knows? I mean, these teams could all be pretty good. They could all be lousy. They just keep tearing each other apart. In the Wild West that is the Big 12, I'm going K-State as well.
Heading out to Knoxville, Rocky Top, Kentucky. After having a disappointing season, they were in the top 10 at the beginning of the year, have kind of fallen back, still in the top 20, ranked number 19. Go on the road at a 6 o'clock game, 7 o'clock in Tennessee, at Tennessee, with everything going for the Vols, and, they're ranked number 3 in the land, finally beat Bama. They're going up against a Kentucky team who's still pretty good in all respects. Yeah. Boy, you got to pick this game first.
Give me the fighting WLIL country Tennessee Volunteers in this one. I think Kentucky is fundamentally sound, so it's not going to be a boat race, but just way too much firepower from Jalen Hyatt, Hendon Hooker, the Tennessee offense. I think that number is too small. I will lay the points. Give me the Vols. Up on Rocky Top.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this one. I think that, they said they kind of play Iowa defense. They're not super duper athletic like Bama or Georgia is, but they just play good sound defense. And on the road at Tennessee, that might shake up their offense a little bit. There's going to be trouble scoring points with Will Levis and Chris Rodriguez. And I just think that this is the kind of game that Tennessee just, in the end, it could be close through 3 quarters, but in the end finds a way to cover probably 14 points. I say 38-24 win from Tennessee, although it could be maybe even tied going into the fourth. They're the better team, and they find a way to pull this one out.
I agree with you on the pick, disagree with you on the analysis. I think Tennessee is just a lot better than Kentucky right now. I didn't believe at the beginning of the year. I do now. I've seen enough. Josh Heupel and that offense just get up and down the field. They make the right calls. I think Tennessee is not particularly stressed in this one. Give me the Vols.
All right. We head back to Beaver Stadium, where now the 13th...
Do we have to go back to Beaver Stadium?
Might have to. It's big noon kickoff heading to Penn State, where they have a big, huge home game against Ohio State. This game could end up being 48-17 Ohio State. It could end up being, 28-27 Ohio State. You never know how these kinds of games go. Ohio State is favored by 15.5 points. That seems about the right number when you don't really know which way this game could go. I'm gonna take Penn State. I think this
thank you.
I think this is the Ohio State game where they've kind of had an easy schedule going into this game. Toughest games has been Michigan State and Iowa, who aren't particularly hard to play, but knock on wood, they might beat us next on Saturday. But I just think that this is the kind of game that wakes a lot of State up. This is a good CFP test. I know Penn State's not really a CFP team, but this is going to be a good test on the road. The crowd's going to be into it, and I'm going to take Penn State probably in a 31-27 kind of a game.
I've been saying all year Penn State is just not that good, and they will get exposed again against an elite team against like Ohio State. Ohio State wins this game by 20 at least. I think that number is way too low. Joey Porter's good on the corner, but I think Ohio State's just got too many people to cover, too many options out of the backfield, and Penn State just isn't that good. They looked fine in the whiteout. It's a whiteout against the backup quarterback from Minnesota, the same Minnesota who was embarrassed by Purdue not too much earlier. I don't think you can take anything really as an upper for Penn State coming out of that Minnesota game. They're more the team that lost to Michigan against an elite squad than they are the team that rolled over Minnesota. Buckeyes, easy money. Take Ohio State in this one.
I'll never forgive you if Penn State covers this game. All right, final game, 6:30 ABC.
I didn't ask for forgiveness, so I won't care.
We have an in-state matchup, Michigan State, Michigan. This has been a game on every Michigan fan's calendar all year long. It's just been peering in. Like, this is the kind of game for both teams that are going to be, for Michigan State, they've had a disappointing season, got a win in double overtime at home last week against Wisconsin. This could be their bounce-back game. And then with Michigan, this could also be their bounce-back game after being 0-2 against Mel Tucker. 22.5 Michigan is favored by. If you don't know the rivalry, that seems like a good number, but when you're really into it and you know how things go, that is way too high. I will pick first, and I'll take Michigan State. I think this game's going to be, excuse me, close the whole way through. I think that dumb calls are going to happen. Mel Tucker's going to have crazy things up his sleeve. It's going to be close the whole game, and in the end, we're just going to find a way to pull this out. I'm feeling like a 34-31 kind of win. Stupid game. Like, everything's going to go for Michigan State, even though it's a blew out at the big house at night.
Unofficially.
Yeah, unofficially.
With yellow pom-poms, so whatever.
So give me Michigan State in this one. This one's a no-brainer to me.
I'm taking Michigan State, but I don't think it's going to be that close. I think this game for Michigan is somewhere between the Iowa game and the Indiana game. They ended up beating Iowa by 13 points, ended up beating Indiana by 24 points, or 21 points, excuse me. So I see this thing, in that 34-17 type range. But as always, without fail, at the end of the first quarter, it'll be 10-7 Michigan State or something like that. Michigan State always comes out strong. But I think Michigan's got a better team. I think they can do more things to win this game. I think the stadium and the atmosphere, and I think the intangibles are with Michigan this year. They're mad about last year's game, and they should be. Hats off to Michigan State. They took a terrible call which robbed Aiden Hutchins of a touchdown, and then converted a deep 4th and 4 ball when they were down 16 points. Then Kenneth Walker just took over with tempo in the fourth quarter. Michigan's mad about that game. I think Michigan is going to throw the ball more than they have been, but they're going to try to stay balanced. But I think this is going to be J.J. McCarthy's shining moment. He was embarrassed by the fumble last year. I'm going to take Michigan 35-17, something like that. Michigan State covers, but it's not close after halftime.
Keep in mind, the last time in the big house with fans, Michigan won 44-10. So just remember that metric when this game possibly could go downhill really fast for Michigan State.
And yet you still think it's going to be a field goal game, so whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you have no clue how this game's going to go with a rivalry game. I'm picking what I think is most likely going to happen.
And like SP Plus, Michigan State currently trails Troy, Tulane, and Marshall.
Well,
are the teams in front of them. So if you're worried because of Juju. If you're worried because of the Maryland-Michigan game, where Michigan was clearly better, but the final score didn't show it. I think this is a game in which Michigan's going to challenge Olu Oluwatimi to blow Jacob Slade off the ball. That's going to be a tough call. I think if Michigan State has a game plan, it's going to be like the 2020 game in which they're going to look at Coleman, they're going to look at Reed, they're going to look at Barker, and they're going to just throw the ball up. They're going to try to get PIs or try to get a couple jump balls, move the chains with a few flags, which could work. Michigan's secondary hasn't been tested too badly this year down the field. They were tested at the line of scrimmage by Indiana, but I think Michigan will hold up enough in this game to make it the kind of thing where people have their feet up on the couch as the fourth quarter begins.
Never know what could happen with Mel Tucker off a bye week.
Well, or Jim Harbaugh, right? So they're both off a bye week.
Oh, no. That is it. How many games we disagree on this week?
3 agree, 2 disagree.
So I will not be able to beat you. I will not be able to be beating you at the end of this week. But this could be a really fun week for the CFP race.
You may as well just take Oklahoma State as a coin flip just for fun, but because nobody has any idea anything about the Big 12. But I agree it's going to be an interesting week, and things just get more interesting. There still seems like there's maybe a dozen teams that could be in the playoff right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Oregon, they got demolished by Georgia, and now they're starting to play really good ball. I mean, they beat, top 15 teams.
Oregon has a chance. USC still has a chance. I mean, USC has a very good loss, if you want to count losses. I think you look at as many as 3 teams out of the SEC have a fighting chance. It was 4 until Ole Miss went down to LSU. Clemson's obviously there. Michigan, Ohio State are both there at this point. TCU is still
find
there.
Find a way not to lose.
Yep. So, there's a lot of opportunities for a lot of teams right now, and that's what makes it fun. And this is what it'll look like when we go to the 12-team playoff in a few years. You'll have some more definition, but then you'll be looking at, 5 or 6 more beyond the 12 who could be fighting for that opportunity. All right, that'll do it for this week, week 9. I'm the Preacher.
I'm the Prodigy.
We'll see you for week 10.
Peace.